Hi, and welcome to Hill's Hangout. I'm Stanley Nunn, your host, and I'm here with the extraordinary individual, chef, contestant on Survivor, writer, filmmaker, just about everything, Mr. Keith Famie. Welcome.
No, it's an honor to be here. My home, Farmington, Farmington Hills.
Absolutely. So you're born here, raised here?
Raised here, delivered the Observer newspaper, went to Farmington High School, the whole 9 yards.
That is
first
fantastic.
job at the Great Wall Chinese restaurant on Grand River, and Farmington has been, it's always a dear, close place to my heart.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. So you began your career in probably one of the more unusual fashions, at least as far as I read. You were a contestant on Survivor. How did that happen?
Well, so the career of film production, I started years before that. I was doing adventure-type cooking shows for Channel 4. I used to do news segments for Channel 4 called Famie's Finds, because I was a chef. My whole thing was I learned to cook, and I traveled the world, and I had restaurants and that kind of stuff. And cooking was my passport to travel. I was like, wow, I could pretty much go anywhere and take my skill with me or take from the environment. And then that transitioned into kind of an adventure cooking series. And ended up on Survivor in 2000, and it was, as they say, a game changer. But I always say that the real game of Survivor begins when it's over. What you do with it, and so I was fortunate. I signed with Food Network, had my own series on Food Network for many years, and really enjoyed that. I was a caregiver of my dad. He had Alzheimer's, and in 2003 he passed away, and with my mom and I both there, and of course Farmington Hills resident, and we grew up here, and our family was here, and it just kind of was a transitional time for me that I thought, I just don't want to be this guy in front of the camera anymore. I don't want to be this adventure chef dude kind of guy. And so I decided I want to take my understanding of production and directing and doing things with cooking and exploration around the world, and let's put the camera on other people, help other people tell their stories. And I stepped behind the camera, and boy, once I got behind the camera, I enjoyed that storytelling and being able to help people bring to life their lessons of life for others so much that I thought that's great. And so it's been almost 17 years now we've been doing this. That's fantastic. I still cook once in a while, don't get me wrong.
So before you got into the news and whatnot, how did you just decide that this was the career path for you?
The filmmaking, documentary filmmaking, really came with a very focused direction. That when I decided to stop doing adventure type cooking shows, I thought, let's try to tell people stories. And the first one we did was our Italian story, and then we did our Polish story, and then our Greek story, and our American story, and our India story. We followed different ethnicities of my immigrants that came to Michigan, and somehow we always went back home. We went to India, we went to Italy, and so on, told their backstories. And then we transitioned into doing other, obviously we've done films about Alzheimer's and cancer and veteran and tribute films, and what happens when somebody's blind, to all kinds of subject matter, which has been an extraordinary journey that I look back on now at 62 years old, that I'm blessed that I've been able to meet and enjoy so many different styles of culture and people, and the stories we've told and the impacts we've had on people's lives have been, it's heartwarming. So I enjoy what I do.
So you spoke about the varying areas of your career. You've been a little bit of everything. I was looking back through your Wikipedia, and I saw you've done a little bit of everything and been all over the world. Your current project is Walking the Walk?
So right now we're working on 4 different productions for 2023, 2024. One we're finishing up called Detroit City of Hot Rods and Muscle Cars. Great film, be ready in June. It's gonna be a lot of fun. It's really a story about people and the impact cars have had on them, the impact fathers have had on sons and daughters, the impact veterans have had on cars, the impact women have had on cars. I mean, Tim Allen's in the film, Chip Foose is in the film. It's gonna be a really fun but touching story that maybe people wouldn't expect from a film about hot rods and muscle cars. And then the other 3 films that we started is Walk the Walk, Living on the Razor's Edge, is really a deep understanding of what poverty means and what does it mean to be homeless. And how do you get into that situation? And what organizations focus on helping those that live in that world? And how does mental health relate to it? So it'll be a complicated production that will, I think, I always like to say, I like to turn the mirror on the audience so that they look at themselves and say, how has this affected me? How do I relate to this? How can I be a better person? So I'm hoping that besides answering a lot of questions, I'm hoping that maybe some of the, the way people view homelessness, maybe they'll view them a little differently, that they understand the story deeper in the complexities of what it is to face poverty and homelessness. The other film we're working on is called Fork in the Road, A Path They Did Not Choose, which is really about, it's about adoption, it's about foster care. What is it to be a child in foster care? What is it to be a family to bring somebody in foster care? What is it to be adopted? What is it to find your biological parents? I was adopted, so I can relate to the story very deeply because I was adopted, and I met my biological parents when I was 35, met 13 brothers and sisters. So I understand the significance of this story. So this one really touches me pretty deeply. And then the last one we're starting on this year is called Detroit, the City by the River. And last year we premiered in December, we premiered Detroit, the City of Churches, where we took 17 churches, 17 spiritual leaders, and really let them tell the story of the history of Detroit from the perspective of a church, the historical churches. Now we're going to do something very similar to the Detroit River. We did one about the Holocaust where we invited two young people. It's called Show Ambassadors, two young people that told the story of the Holocaust. Very powerful. Neither one of them were Jewish. Neither one of them knew very much about the Holocaust. But I found two people that had two unique talents, and they used those talents after immersing them with 5 Holocaust survivors to tell the story. And one was a singer-songwriter from Detroit, rapper. Curtis Bates did an astonishing job with 3 rap songs in the film. And then the other one is Haley Callahan was the other individual we chose, who's a graduate of CCS, who created out of glass a train car, the duplicate of the same train car that sits in the Holocaust Museum that was used to carry prisoners to Auschwitz. She made it all out of glass, with glass butterflies flying off it, just beautiful. So everything that we do has to somehow, I always look at a project, first of all, who's going to care? Who's it going to help? And where's it going to be seen? Who's the audience going to be? So I'm always trying to build those components into what we do. And starting every project, I always remind all of our team, the story we're going to tell is never the story we're going to tell. And that is so true. You never know the journey you're going to go on. You have to just relax, like a great bottle of red wine. Let it breathe and don't push it, and you'll get there. And just follow the story. Keep your eyes and ears open.
That is fantastic. That is fantastic. Your work seems to be oriented towards, I guess the best way to put it is sort of an esoteric feel, sort of a look at the world through a very unique perspective. How does the body of work affect you, though?
Well, I think that the type of projects that we work on enable myself and my team to be better people. I mean, we get a front row seat to really unique lives. Our one film that we produced last year, which is airing now nationally, called Hospice Care in America, is a really deep dive into hospice and understand that. So we spend a lot of time with hospice patients. Another film that just won the Best Documentary Award at the Grand Rapids Film Festival is called Chromosomally Enhanced, What's Your Superpower? It's about those that live and thrive with Down syndrome. I mean, we had an amazing opportunity to spend time with these 9, 10 different individuals that have Down syndrome and their families, and what joys did we gain from that. And by the way, their superpower, the reason I named it that was I encountered a young man at Kroger's who was packing my groceries probably 3.5 years ago, and he had Down syndrome. His name was Michael, and I was so moved by the conversation that we had and the uplifting feeling when I left there. I thought, what is it about Down syndrome that allows these individuals to have this empathetic, exuding, vibrant, glowing personality? I thought, oh my God, that's their superpower. They're nice. So then I thought, well, let's do a film about that. And of course, Michael's in the film. And so I really wanted to shine a light on that characteristic that some individuals may feel was a flaw. I saw it as not a flaw. I saw it as a benefit. And so we allowed their parents and family members and society that we film with to echo that. And so we brought out that's their superpower. And the film has been shown many times all around the country. So the point, your answer to your question is, I am really lucky. I had the best job in the world. I look at somebody's life and I say, your story is important, and I want to help tell that story so others can benefit from the journey you've been on. And in turn, I benefit greatly.
You've been doing this for a while. You've experienced a lot, the front of the camera, behind the camera, the business side as well as the personal side of the business. If you had to give some advice, if you could give some advice to aspiring filmmakers and people who are following in a path similar to yours, what would it be?
I'm a curious cat by nature, so when certain things will bother me and I figure, I got to understand this better, that may become a story, so I'll chase down that path. So I guess the first advice would be, don't try to force something. If you're trying to really force something, maybe you should just walk away from it. It's got to touch you, documentary filmmaking, it's got to touch you personally for all the right reasons. And so let that guide you. And it may take you someplace you never expected, and just be patient with it. And that's the hardest thing about documentary filmmaking. Unlike a scripted film, you go in, you have a set script, you shoot the script, you go and edit it. Documentary filmmaking, sometimes takes us years, 2 years, 3 years, because we're following stories, we're following something that's important. So you have to just be patient with it. The other thing that's probably most important for every documentary filmmaker is see it, say it, say it, see it. I live by this. It drives everything we do. If you say it, I got to see it. If I see it, somebody's got to talk about it. Nobody wants to see a bunch of talking heads in a documentary. I'm such a strong believer of visualization. That's our company's called Visualist. If you can visualize it, you'll get there. With the chromosomally enhanced, I said, hey, what if we have our 9 kids pull a B-17 33,000-pound bomber at the end of the film at the Yankee Air Museum? Everyone's, it's impossible. Why? It can't be done. Why? We did it. The kids did it. And they did it with the help of a whole group of first responders, Eric Hipple and Lomas Brown, who came in on a tank. So the point was, everything is possible. Just think through it. Always try to play it out in your head. Follow your vision. Don't let people tell you it can't be done. Matter of fact, let them tell you it can't be done. But let that become the fuel for you making sure it gets done.
If you could speak to our audience and give them one advice about just life in general.
We live in a difficult time. It's very polarizing, and I think that, and instead of, if I may offer this not to my generation and your generation, because you know what, unfortunately, they're set in their ways, one way or another. It's hard. But let me offer this to the younger generation. You guys are leaders. Whether you're a leader of a company, a leader of a team, a leader of your own life, you're a leader. And as a leader, you have to step back and really listen carefully to what's going on. So then you project outward of the way you would feel if you were wearing the shoes of somebody else. And lead from that. Don't lead from what is said. Don't lead from what is heard. Lead from what you feel. It's a very complicated time. These are complicated times. But this generation, the next generation, and I have a lot of faith in it. I work with a lot of young people. They're going to do astonishing things. We can still do astonishing things. But they're going to do the real astonishing things. We have more time behind us than we do in front of us. It's just a fact. There's nothing wrong with that. It's okay. We've had our time in the sun. It's their time. So I like them to really understand the power that they have as young people and as leaders of our community, leaders of themselves, to really think through the global world that we live in, the global family we live in, and understand the significance that every human being brings something to the party.
That is perfect. I want to thank you. This is Mr. Keith Famie, extraordinary human, I want to thank you for joining us.
Nah, it's an honor to be here, brother. Appreciate it. Really appreciate it.
That's it for this episode of Hills Hangout. See you next month.